We're going to work on a drawing now that's based on a style of artwork called analytical cubism, which was popularized by Picasso and Gris. And the image that we're going to look at in detail will be this one here by Picasso, the portrait of Vollard. But if you look at this Google image search, I've searched for analytical cubism, you can get an overall idea of what the sort of images look like. You can see lots of areas where they go from dark to light within shapes, and it's all a bit fractured and broken up. And if we look at the Picasso Vollard from 1910, you can see in a bit more detail each of these areas. See this one here, he's painted it and graded it from dark through to light. Done the same here, and there's no rhyme nor reason, or apparent rhyme nor reason, to the directions that he goes. He obviously has planned it very carefully, but what he's doing is he's breaking up the space. He's making the areas that are dark recede or go backwards, and the other areas come forward. So instead of a normal picture which has a fair bit of depth in it, because you can see a background and maybe scenes or something in the distance, this one has a very shallow picture frame because there's really not much that you can identify in the back. So instead of having a picture plane of meters or hundreds of meters, this one's most probably thought of in terms of centimeters, maybe 10 centimeters, because it doesn't really have much depth in that respect. So a fairly shallow picture frame. You can see in the face how he's broken it up here too. So everything's broken up into sort of geometric shapes. Now we're going to use that idea to create a drawing. Now I'm just going to show you a student version of it. So that's a student version of the drawing that we're going to work on. It's quite a good one, and it's all about shading from dark through to light. Okay, so as I said before, we're going to be working on a simple drawing come shading exercise, which is based on the analytical cubist image that I showed you before. And it's really just a way to practice your shading and getting tones going from dark to light. But in doing it, you create a small artwork. Now, on my page, you'll notice a little frame here. It's quite a bit smaller than a full A4 page. I've got to do that to fit in the camera that I'm using. So I'm actually working about half the size that you might want to try. I'm going to use my 2B pencil. Now, 2B is the preferred pencil to start with for drawing. It's the basic one. You should have a set of 2B, 4B, and 6B pencils as a minimum to start with, but you can get away with just a 2B. Don't try and use HB for shading. It's too hard and you won't get the nice darks. Same for B. So we're going to start with the a 2B pencil. Now I'm going to draw what we call a schematic face to start this exercise off. Now I'm not worried about proportions or anything like that. I'm just doing the schematic face. So I'm going to start here with my head shape. Doesn't have to be brilliant. Don't draw it too darkly either. Try and keep it quite light because in the final analysis it basically disappears. I'm going to put my eyes in here. I'm not being overly precious about all that. I'm going to put a nose. That's probably a bit long actually, but anyway, that'll do. A mouth. I can put ears on if I want, although you're not really going to see them. I'm not even going to worry about hair. I might indicate some eyebrows up here for a bit. Now, what I'm imagining when I do this is that my face is made up of pieces of flat metal welded together. So I'm going to start breaking it up. Imagine if I had to, use flat pieces of tin or whatever, or even cardboard glued together or something. So I'm going to start breaking it up into simple planes. So I'm just going to darken that eye down a bit, circle in there. So I might put the line down the center of the nose. I might put a box there and a box there. I might have another line coming up in here. Might join the eye through to there. break that up in a couple of pieces. I know I'm going to have a triangular piece under here. Do the same on this side. Now, triangular piece basically on the cheeks. I'm going to join that line down there. I might put that there. I'm going to start joining those to that. I might put a piece that comes up here for the chin and join the lips into there. I'll just firm them up a bit. And then I sort of start, after a while, just breaking it down into manageable shapes. I don't want my shapes to be too big, because if they're too big, they're too hard to shade. So, put a line across the forehead here. These ones are getting a bit too big, but anyway, we'll work on them as we go. And then I'll put my neck in here, a couple of shaded bits through there maybe. Then I'm going to break up my entire background just into random interesting shapes, just so I've got something to shade in. And basically, a bit like that analytical cubist face that I showed you earlier, the face will disappear into the background a little bit. So here's our schematic face ready to roll. Sorry if it's a little bit out of focus. I'm having a bit of trouble getting the entire camera focused. I can get some areas sharp, like there, but it's drifting out, so you just have to bear with me. Now I'm just going to use another bit of paper here for this first bit. So basically we're working on shading, going from dark to light. So I'm just going to show you how I might shade from dark to light just on the bit of paper, and you might want to practice this way too before you start your work. So we go, and going from dark through to light quite simply by easing the pressure off on my my pencil, so you can see dark and light. Now the dark tones will go back, that is recede, and the light tones will stay forward. So what we're actually doing is making each shape on that face look like it's bending. You might go from dark through to light, back to dark again. Now that's our aim in each of their shapes, is to have a good dark tone and a nice almost pure white tone. Now if you lose your light because you're a bit heavy-handed, and we often do. Yeah, I haven't really got the light in there. I've got nice darks but not a light. I can get my eraser and I can quite carefully, and a nice new one's good, a nice clean one, and just gently bring back my lights. Now a good way, if your eraser is dirty, to clean it is to literally just on a bit of scrap paper wipe it off like that. And you can also sharpen up your edges with your eraser by doing the same thing. Really good drawing tools, not just for fixing things that you don't want. It can be used as a total drawing tool. In fact, you could do an entire drawing on a piece of graphite, of paper that's shaded all the way in, and use an eraser to bring back your lines. So that can be a bit of fun. So get that out of the way now. And back to my 2B pencil. So I'm going to start playing around with the each section. So I might start here. It's only a little from mine. So I'm just going to bring this one through to light. Sometimes it gets too small. It can actually be harder than if it's bigger. So the size I'm working on to most probably a bit too small. So if you use a full A4 page, it'll be better. Now, I'm not worried about any form of logical joining up of the tones. So this bit here I've got going is back and it comes to forward. This bit here, I'm going to do it different. I'm going to take it dark, going to go through to light, and back to dark. So I've bent that round. The eye can be fun because you might have to play with the circle. So you might do your light in the center. This section here, I'm going to go dark here through the light. This big one I might actually break up because it's just a little bit too big. So again, dark through the light, dark again. Now you see I'm not being too careful with the edges. Basically the idea is that the shading itself creates the sharp edges. That's why the original drawing of the face, the lines weren't too dark. And we just keep going. I won't do, obviously not going to do the whole lot, just do enough so you can see what we've got to do. This one's just going to come through the light. So you can go back over like I'm doing there, and so on. And so we start to see our face disappearing a bit, and the shading all different ways. I'll just do one more piece. So I'm just really doing one section to give you an idea. There we go. And so on. I might come and do some of these. I'll just do one of these ones up here. It can be quite good for you to turn your page around. I can't do it on my example because I'd lose where it is in the camera. Just going to do another bit here just to start building this face up a little bit. So I'm trying to get the edges a bit sharper there. And so hopefully you're going to get the idea. Now remember, you can use your eraser to bring back tones if you feel like you've lost your lights. I maybe could have done it there, but it's not too difficult. Might just lightly tidy up some of the edges. It's most really handy to keep your pencil nice and sharp. This one's starting to get a bit dull on the end, but because I'm working with the side of it all the time, it does tend to sharpen up. Although you'll notice this one hasn't got much of a sharpener bit there. Try and use a good sharpener, a metal one if you can. The better quality sharpener the better, because when you sharpen it, it grips and you don't want it to twist the graphite. There we go, that's not a great one actually. Let's just sharpen that up. Sometimes you might want a couple of pencils handy, that's another 2B. But that's basically what you're going to be playing with. That's what you're doing. Now I'm going to do a little bit more of this, and I'll put an example, a finished example at the end of this video. Okay, hopefully that gets you the idea. You're really just working on your shading exercises. It's not about creating an amazing artwork, but it does it automatically. It's just a more interesting way instead of shading in boxes and so on. There are other exercises you can play with too in the extension lessons. There's one on just shading shapes and creating cylinders and cubes and spheres and so on, which are really good exercises to play with as well. Okay, have a go and see how your work can progress. And there it is. There's my finished version. You can see in each of the shapes we're trying to go from dark to light. Some I've fiddled around, gone from dark to light and back to light again, or dark to light to dark, and so on. So you can do whatever you want. You can see the effect that it has, and that's basically what you should end up with. Okay, thanks.